morning, children. Today's class is for Standard 10, Chapter 3 Applied History. Introduction. Often have questions related to history, that is, why do we study history, or how is history useful in future? Let me tell you one thing. We are been learning about history since class 3 and 4, from Stone Age man to the 20th century man. Whatever he did in his past, it used to help him to become developed, and a failure would teach him to correct his mistake. I hope you understood why it is necessary to learn past now. And here comes the role of applied history. Basically, what we are studying in 10th standard is applied history, like how we can use history in our day to day life. It's a famous saying, if anybody does not know about his history, he cannot have a good or a bright future. Yes, you heard me correct. Because until and unless a person does not knows about his past, it will be very difficult for him to cope up with the coming challenges in future. So, learning about history is equally important and necessary. What is applied history? Applied history is also known as public history. It is a field of study concerned with application of history for the benefit of people in contemporary and future times. Here, contemporary means modern. Knowledge of history is useful as it can provide guidance in finding solution to contemporary social issues and incorporate them in the social planning. Basically, knowledge of history is essential for this purpose. In easiest term, applied history is a branch of history which is studied to find solution from the past for our modern problems. Children, it is interesting to know that people have lot of misgiving about the practicality of the knowledge. For example, history is usually taught as a field of interest only for historians and students wishing to pursue higher studies in the subject and not to pertaining to practical life. History is a field of knowledge does not have any applicability to economical productivity fields, etc. But public history helps to overcome such misgiving and make history meaningful in everyday life, connecting people to history. There are many universities abroad where various courses in public history are offered. Srishti Institute of Art, Design and Technology, Bangalore, Karnataka. This institute has an independent department named Central of Public History. This department has taken various projects and research in the field of public history. Public history creates opportunity not only for technical experts like historians but also common man to take interest in history among people. They can volunteer to participate in their conservation and preservation of their own city, town or village. On next, applied history and research in various fields. We all know history is a past event. The way our present lifestyle is shaped depends on the historical chain of events. Historical events related to various fields like politics, social, religious structure of a community, philosophy, and science and technology. Each of these fields have their own history of building knowledge. The direction of future development in every field is dependent on the state of available knowledge. Hence, the method of history can prove to be valued in the research of various fields such as philosophy, science, technology, industry and commerce, management studies, art, and humanities. Moving on with first, that is philosophy. The history of philosophy helps in understanding the origin of various ideologies, the intellectual traditions giving rise to those ideologies and their historical development. Philosophy needs language as a medium of expression. In order to understand the philosophical expression, knowledge of the history of language proves useful. Short, it is important to know about the history that's past of philosophy, which will help us in understanding how these ideologies that we read today were actually originated, that's begin. As philosophy needs a medium to be expressed, its history of language also proves useful. Second is science. of science helps in understanding the chronology order of scientific discoveries, invention, and theories. It can also help us in understanding the cause effect chain to those discoveries and invention. It is said, need is the mother of invention. Scientific discoveries or inventions are often the effect of human efforts to fulfill a need and also curiosity. These efforts are based on already available scientific knowledge. Knowledge of history of science helps in understanding the factor that facilitates a scientific discovery or invention and also its chronology. Here, I would like to add that you must be hearing about Thomas Edison and his invention of light bulb. But do you know the time when he couldn't invent the bulb or the time when his invention was not complete? He used to say that he have learned or he had found that 10,000 ways where the bulb won't work. That clearly says that it is his curiosity. It was his curiosity which made him work towards the goal to be achieved. Learning every time from his failure. The third is technology. The history of technology helps in understanding the changes and their causes in the field of agriculture production, commodity production, architecture, engineering, etc. Scientific discoveries, invention, and technology advancement are mutually dependent on each other. Knowledge of science and technology can be very important at every step from the making of stone tools to agriculture products in the evolution of mankind. Later, the advancement of science promoted the mechanization of production. It is necessary to know that history of technology in order to understand the development of mechanization and the mutual dependency between science and technology. Moving on next with industry and commerce. This field of mutual social transaction expand with the growth of industry and trade. It also promotes continuous development of the network of cultural interaction. It is an integral part of industrial and commercial management. It is essential to understand the history of these processes. The nature of the market and commerce has continued to change. Secondly, the nature of human relationship and the social organization has also continued to change. To understand this development, it is necessary to study the history of culture, social organization, and economic institution. Moving on next with management studies. In order to understand the various factors involved in the chain of production, such as means of production, human resources, and process of production, as well as chain of market and sales management, etc. It is essential to have a knowledge of similar functional system of the past. It is essential to understand the psychological character of people working at various levels in the chain of production and marketing for healthy management. In order to achieve it, understanding of the social and economical situation that supports the industry and commercial processes is important. Knowledge of history in this regard makes the management at various levels easier. Next is arts. It is important to understand the development of various art forms, the help of their style of expression, and their foundation in the form of intellectual, emotional, cultural tradition. The key to the expression in any art form, emotional temperament of the artist, and the developmental history of the respective art form can be understood with the help of cultural history. We can say that as the time grew and as the time moved ahead, people started drawing their own portraits, and all the mythological depictions were done based on the stories which they were being aware. This way, art started taking its own step ahead and its own features from the history. And last is humanities. Humanities include disciplines like history, archaeology, sociology, anthropology, political science, economics, etc. To understand the history of the origin and development of these disciplines is an essential part of the learning. All disciplines are supposed to have their origin in philosophy. Ancient people all over the world tried to speculate in order to understand the relationship between the universe and human existence. It gave rise to various mythological stories about the origin of this world, the universal order, human life, god and goddesses, rituals, and their philosophical explanation. Roots of philosophical ponderings are to be found in the mythological stories. Various disciplines and the humanities have theoretical foundation based on philosophical theories. Each historical knowledge can help us in understanding developmental stages. Moving ahead with applied history and our present. People often ask about the practical value of history. The answer to the question above, the nature of applied history, answers this question as well. The visible and invisible remains of the past exist in the present. Nurture some kind of curiosity, attraction towards them. We wish to know more about their history because they represent the creative thought and tradition of our ancestors. It is our heritage. It helps in building our identity. The history of our heritage links us with our origin. Hence, it became necessary to preserve and conserve it for our future, for our benefit, as well as for the benefit of our future generation. Applied history is concerned with preservation and conservation of our heritage and make it accessible to people. Heritage management creates opportunity of employment. In brief, applied history can be described as understanding of our present with the help of history and finding right direction for the benefit of our future. So, children, in this part we have completed 3.1, what is applied history, 3.2, applied history and research in various fields, 3.3, applied history and our present. 3.4 and 3.5 will be done for you in the next part. Thank you.